So event-driven programming, okay, in animations. I'm not going to focus too much on animation, although there's one assignment that allows you to animate some objects like a car. You'll see that in there. But it's we'll see if we have time to do that. I don't have it. I mean, I'm not going to be able to cover it tonight, but we'll see how far you go. If not, we can always either cancel that or do a different one. But for now, we know what abstract classes and interfaces are, right? By now, you should know what those are and why they are used and when you should use them. Okay, so this is just a basic review from the previous ones. I'm not going to go over this. I'm going to go right into the chapter 15 on the event-driven programming. Okay, so event-driven is a application that requires some type of event to be triggered by the user or by another application to cause some type of interaction. Okay, so that's why if you run your application in JavaFX, your program runs there, it stays there. After you click a button, it does something, or if it doesn't do anything, it doesn't matter. It will stay there until you close the program, right? So that is an event program. Okay, it's waiting for an event to occur. The same thing for Visual Basic. When you run your application, it stays there on the screen until you click a button or click a link somewhere. Whereas in Java 1, we did a lot of just more of the procedural type of programming because everything runs from top to bottom, and once you exit out and then you're done, or you click a key, make a selection or something. Okay, so example like your code bounce, your vote counts. We did that in Java 1. That is example of a procedural programming language. Application. And then the one that you're doing now is event-driven. Okay, so for example, you have a button here, right? You just two buttons are waiting there until you click it, and if you click the button, okay, it will do something. Otherwise, it just sits there and wait for an event. Okay, so so the event you can classify into like 3 different pieces of objects that always work together to make the event works. So we have the component, which is the source object. So the keywords here are the source and then the target or the event objects. Okay, so the source is always the object that is receiving that event. So like a button, it will be the source. A text or an image, you click on the form or on the view will be the source, and that is like the who, right? Whose object is it? Who? And then the event itself is actually an object also, like a click event. That is an object. So that is the what it does, right? What kind is it? What kind of event is it? So, and then once that event's been clicked or be triggered, then how is that event needs to be handled? So we have the event handler, and this is the how part, and this is where you do your code. How should this event be handled? And so it takes these three objects here. You have the button here. This is the source, receives an event. And then once the event has been received, you should handle that event. Okay, so it follows this process here. So all these are objects. Okay, if you have the object for the source, object for the event, object for the event handler. Okay, when I say object, meaning they are classes, right? Objects always have class. There's no class, no objects. So again, some of these are examples of the object sources. Any object you see on the screen will be a source. Or even the pane itself is a source. The window is a source also. Okay, and then there are 4 types of events in JavaFX. We have the action event, this type of object here, action event, a mouse event, key event, meaning for the key press on your keyboard, and you have the window event. So when you resize your window, when you move it or you minimize it, that is also an event that occurs on the window level. And when that happens, what should you do, right? So those are all events. So most of the assignments will be focused mainly on the action event and maybe just these 3 here. Okay, mostly the mouse and keyboard. That's usually the top 2 types of events that can be occurred in most applications anyway. So the event handler object. The handler object is is actually handled by an interface called the event handler. Okay, so this interface here takes an instance, takes an action event. An action event would be like those we just saw, like a click event or a key press event or something like that. And then you need to handle those events. And how you register those events is by attaching that into an object, right? And then use the dot set on action or set on mouse down or set on key pressed. Okay, so these actions here, different types of methods are here. You can attach to an object. So if you remember, or if you ever use JavaScript in web development, it's like the JavaScript on click, right? So the object will be like a button dot on click dot hover and things like that. Okay, and then you pass the handler into that object, and then it handles it here and there. So the handler is really just another function that handles the event. So when you click on that button, it sets on the action and it loads the handle, and then what does it do? Okay, you add something, you display something, you move something, it's inside the handler here. Okay, so again, this is just how things are, what things are in terms of the class. So you have the mouse and the key event here, the mouse event, the keyboard. These are your input event, and also the action event applies to mouse event as well. And all these are under the event object umbrella. Okay, so I'm just going to go right into here. You see this table here. Actually, it's from a different. I think it's not 16. It should be like 15 here. It shows the type of events the user act on, and then what source object usually receives those events, and then the type. The type of events, and then the event registration or the method that is used. So as you can see here, if you click a button, that is a part of the button type, and then the event will be an action event. So most of these are action event. When you press a mouse or release the mouse, a mouse click, mouse enter, all these other events will be we'll use the mouse event, and then the key press will use the key event. Okay, so mostly they're under the action event, and you can register by using one of these actions here, set event, or set on action, and then you create a function in here or an instance of this event handler to perform that action. Okay, so let's go right into the example so you can see a little bit better. And there are 3 ways to handle events. Okay, so I'm going to show you the first one first, the inner class. And I don't think we ever go over inner classes before, but I might have discussed a little bit in the summer. But inner class is really just another class inside another class. Okay, so you can have multiple nested classes inside other classes, and then when that happens, then that inner class is contained within that outer class, and so only visible to that outer class, and so on. And then let me just show you what that looks like in code, so we'll understand. I'm going to do a new project here, just to quickly go over that chapter 15. Event driven this way. Okay. So in here, in the chapter 15, I'm going to remove all these here. I could put it in the main, but I just put it here for now. It doesn't really matter. So we have, this is a class, right? A class called main. And inside this main here, main class, I could have another class here, call it maybe inner class. Okay? And you treat this just like a regular class. It's contained within this main class. It's inside here. It can have constructor. If you want to have a constructor, that's fine. You could have like public inner class, and then we'll just do a print statement in here, just to say constructor. It was an inner class. Constructor. So we know that it's been called in here. So when you instantiate an inner class object, this one prints out, right? And so right in here, I could say inner class, we call it IC, is new inner class, right? So you treat it just like any class. Like say it's contained within this class here. And if I save this now and I run it, you'll see this will be printed out to the console. Okay? Right here. Right? Inner class constructor. Because when I call this main method, it launches the start method, and then inside the instantiated object called IC of the inner class method, and then that instantiation here calls this constructor inside this class here, and then prints this out, right? Just typical class feature. Same thing as if you would put this in a separate class. We have like we did this before. Okay, so this is the inner class, and you can have an unlimited number of inner classes if you want to. It doesn't really matter. I could copy this and then make it inner class 2, and then just say inner class 2 here. So now I have 2 inner classes inside the main class. And you can put this inside another inner class, and you can keep going go down the list here. It can get really deep inside. I mean, for what point, I don't know. But usually, maybe you won't go that deep. So now I have 2 classes inside here. And then I can, again, copy this and instantiate inner class 2, IC2, and then inner class 2. So you can see how things go, right? You have 2 objects of different classes, the inner classes. When you run, you see both of those outputs down here. Okay, so they both work just like your regular class. And you can have methods in here as well. So in inner class 1, I could have public, void, maybe show message something. And here we just put another sysout inner class method, something like that, right? So you can have just like your other classes, except it's contained within the other class, and then this is part of the inner class. So in here, I could now say also IC dot show message, right? You call that method inside the inner class class. So I'm calling this method here, going through the object up here. Okay, so you run this, now you should have 3 messages in the console. So you have the constructor 2, and then you show the method class. Okay, do we get this part now? How inner classes work? It's just like any other class. It gets tricky if you want to access this class from another class outside of the main class. Okay, it gets tricky. I'm not going to go there, but so you cannot directly call this inner class from outside of the other class. Okay, so in other words, this is like an outside class, outer class, right? You can have the class here directly right in the same file. It's fine. And I cannot just say inner class, IC new inner class. Okay, I cannot do that because this class is contained within the main class, which ends right here, right? It's part of the main class only, so I cannot access directly this way. If you want to do that, it's tricky. First, you have to import this class, right? It says you have to import it, just like you did, you import your buttons or your HBox and so on. Once you import it, then you have to instantiate differently. And again, I'm not going to go through that detail, but it's really confusing. But you can still access it, although you have to access it through the main class and not directly inside here. Okay, so just to show you that doesn't work in that way, takes a little bit of effort to do that. So that is the inner class. Okay. Questions on the inner class? Okay. And then when you save your inner classes, you have this $sign in front of the file name. So if it's like I have a fruit as the main class, if I have apples and cherries as the inner classes, then the file name will have a $sign in front of that each class name. So fruits, $sign apple, that class. Fruits, $sign that, but in that class. When you run this file, you see that that is a inner class. Okay, whereas usually you just have the file name fruits.class, right? Okay. So I just showed the same example here. Okay. So event handler. Let's talk about event handler first for now. As you can see, I have the fruits here. Inside the start here, I have a button apple and a button banana. Okay, I'm gonna copy this into the program so we can see how this runs, and I'll go over the details. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this, and then into the program over here. I'm gonna create a new a new package. Create a new package in chapter 15. Is up here. We'll call this fruits. And then we'll create a class. But it's just the what do you call this? Fruits class. Okay. And then this class will extend the application, right? You can manually do this yourself, and then you just have to import the JavaFX application. So now it looks just like the other method, and then you need to implement this start method right here. And then this is constructor. I'm not going to need that, so I'm going to delete that one. So as you can see, it looks just like the other one. Okay, except I do it manually, whereas the other one it automatically generated for me. So if you want to add a new class, a new package, and create your own class, you just do it this way. Fruits extends the application, and then you again, as you start doing this, you're going to see that you're going to keep importing some of the libraries up here. But I also want to have the public main, public static void main. Just so that when I run this, it loads. Otherwise, it's going to load the other one instead. Okay, string. I think it was a string. Args. And then launch box. Again, the word args is optional. You can call it whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Just keep it X is fine. Okay, so now inside here, I'm going to copy my buttons in here. Okay, you can copy from the note and just import the buttons, and then make sure you fix these curly quotes here. I don't like those curly quotes, or those smart quotes. Okay. And then we want to go ahead and create the stage and scene and so on, right? So let's add this to, what do I have added to? I didn't add anything here. Okay, we could add it to like HBox is fine too, easier. HBox. We could put like 10 here, so it has some spaces. Import the HBox. Okay, and I'm going to add the apple and a banana to it. So HBox dot get children, add all, and then BT and apple, and BT and banana. I don't know why I choose fruits, but it could be something else. It could be okay and cancel. It's fine. And then we want to set the scene. And then scene for the H box. Okay, so primary stage, set scene, and then primary stage, show. Import the scene. Okay, so now yeah, so I'm gonna move this all the way down. Okay, do you have like I have? Yeah, your banana apple should have the red line. We haven't fixed that yet. Okay, because those are, if you see the word the keyword new apple, new banana, that means we have to create classes for those. Okay, so those will be your inner class. I just showed you earlier, right? So let's create an inner class for the apple, and then also for the banana for now. Although you look at this though, you see that banana, the button apple dot set on action. Okay, I mean it's waiting for a click or some type of action that is acted on this object called button. So if I take this out for now, if I do this, you'll see that it's nothing. Well, I had to put something there. It doesn't work this way. For now, let me just comment this out. Okay, let's run, and we'll see what it looks like. So we have these two little buttons here, right? Tiny buttons. When you click on it, it should do something, right? Okay, so now when I click on it, it's going to look at this file, or this line here, button apple dot set on action. What kind of action is it? It's a click event, and it's going to load the apple class to do something. Okay, so if you look at the example code here, I have in here, I have an apple class inside the same class, and this class here needs to implement the event handler class interface. Okay, so let me just copy this, put it over there. You can copy both of these, put over there, and I'll go over these. So make sure it's inside the fruits class, right after this method here. Okay, so you should have two of them. So let's go for the top one first. And this event handler needs to be imported from the event handler class library. So you click on that. Also need to import the action event object as well. Okay, so both of those need to be imported. So the colors actually is an object that we didn't I didn't add in there. But for now, we could just say we could just do this for now. Nothing there. And let me just fix this just a little bit. It looks kind of ugly. It should be over here, and then so I have two classes, inner classes, and they both implement the event handler interface. And inside that event interface, because it's an interface, you have to implement this function called handle. Okay, this handle here will take care of that event. So when you click the button, it's going to call this class, it's going to load this handle. Inside here is where you put your code. What happens, it occurs in this method here. Okay, for the apple, for the banana, they have their own events. So I could just say, for now, system.out. Just print a message to the console. Okay. I'll just say apple button is clicked. Just a message to that screen, and put the one down here as well for the banana. So we say banana button is clicked. Okay. So I have two classes, two inner classes, nested inside the fruits class. And then when you load this application, I also want to turn on the banana button now. So it's set on action, and the inside action you put the class name, the instance object of the class called apple. Okay, as a new apple, new banana. The inside that action class, you need to have this handler method. If I take this out, it will yell at you. Okay, it will say, hey, you need to implement this handle called event handle, right? Same thing. So I didn't put the overrider, but you could. You don't have to, but you could. So you have to do that. That's why you have to put the handle in here. And this is the only method that needs to be implemented from this interface. And this is where all the action takes place. You can do a lot of coding in this button here. Once you click the button Apple, what should happen? You load a new image, you load a new audio, or load a video, or it loads a new stage, right? It all happens in here. You can call other functions and so on. This is just really just these really simple stuff here. So now, if I run this application, and you see that these buttons are here, and when I click this Apple, you should have a message down here that says Apple button's clicked. Okay, because when you click on it, it loads this Apple action. It opens and calls this Apple method down here, and the handle method inside the Apple class, and it prints this out. And if I click it again, you see the same thing again. So it's an event-driven application, right? It waits for an event to occur. Banana, we should say banana is clicked. Okay?
So why does it come up in the console and not up in the little HBox?
Yeah. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it two ways, right? So I just showed you can do on the console. If you want to do it on the stage, how do you do that on the stage? So you print out the message to the stage. You have to have a label there, right? Or some sort, or a text box. Okay. So you could say, like in here, in the stage up here, it's a little bit tricky because of the way this works. Notice that if you put inside this class, I can't access this HBox object directly. I don't think I can. So if I type HBox, you see that it's not accessible, right? It's not part of it. It's a different class. So if you want to do that, then you need to put this box here in the global space as a object out here. Okay? And then now I can access the HBox directly from here now. Okay, you see that? So if you want to put a label, then yeah, you could put a label out here. You can add a label, message is equal to new label, and then we'll put nothing in there, it's fine. So blank label. I need to import a label. So that label is ready, and we need to add the label to the HBox. So like right down here, we'll add it here, put the label here as well. Remember, it's a HBox, so it's going to go, it's called message. It's going to go horizontally, which is fine. And why don't we, like on the scene here, we'll change the width of this to like 800 by 250 or something. So like maybe we'll put an output here. So it's going to replace that text. Okay, so for now, if you run it, you see that the message is here. When I click on it, instead of writing down here on the console, I could replace it here, right? Okay, so I could now say down here at the bottom, right here, when I click the apple, it writes to the console. I also want to display to the message label, so set text, right? I could say the same message, let's put it in here. Okay, I do the same thing for the other button, just make it simpler. Okay, so this message here is just label up here, right? So if you have a local message somewhere, you want to put this message, it's fine. It's referring to, well, actually you can't this way. It's outside of that. But so now if you see it has two places to display the data. Apple goes here, also in the console, and the banana also goes to the console. Actually, you have to clear that. That message there. I don't know why it doesn't do that. Oh, did I not change it? Oh, it works. Yeah, that's why I thought. Yeah, I should replace that one. Okay, there you go. So you can see where you can have data displayed in both places. Okay, it's just anything on the console on the GUI, you have to supply an object to receive that data. Okay, either a label or another text box or a list box to receive the data. Okay, so this is how you would do using the inner class as an event. And you follow exactly same method here. If you create a third button, call it OK, then it will be button OK dot set on action new OK or OK class or whatever the class is going to be called. Okay, and in the class will look just exactly like this. You have the class name, the name of the class, implements this event handler, and then the curly brackets, square angle brackets, action event. You have to put this in there. Okay, you have to have this implement this part in here for this event to work. So you can see that every button has its own method, its own class, and if you have 10 buttons, you can have 10 classes. So if you look at the big picture, you say, is there another way you can do this? Is another a better way? So you don't have to have like 100 classes for 100 buttons, right? So you can have a second type, which is, I'm going to close that for now. And the notes here is by using a second method is the anonymous inner class. Okay, this is another inner class, but it's anonymous. So anonymous has no name, right? Notice we have the classical apple, classical banana, and so on. So anonymous function is very similar to this. If you remember anonymous function in other languages, especially in JavaScript, it's just a function or a class without name. Okay, and you would do it by putting inside the object itself. So instead of outside of the method, you put inside the object, attached to the object, like so. So here, I'm going to have the same example here. You see that the other method we did was this way, right? Set action, and then you put the new apple here, and then somewhere in your class we have the apple class, right? Okay, this is the inner class. The anonymous method is similar, set on action, but you put those information right in here. Instead of putting outside a separate class, you just attach it right inside the parentheses inside the set action here. Okay, so the event looks a little bit different. So if I copy this one here, and this banana, and then put it inside the other class, so I'm in here. Okay, and let me comment this out. And then I'm going to remove this color thing here. And I'll put the same message for the banana. Put it in here. Okay. Need to move this, format this a little bit to make it look a little bit nicer. Okay. So if you compare these two here, you see that the new event handler action, this part here is very similar to this part here, right? This is like the interface, and then you follow by a pair of paren, no parameter inside. You cannot put parameter inside. And then the rest here is exactly the same as this part here. This one here and this is exactly the same. The only difference is just this line here. Instead of new apple, you say new event handler, event action event, and then just that. And then the rest goes right in here. So this is actually a class. It's anonymous class, has no name, and you use it only once. That's for that purpose. Here it's apple, so I can call it, I can use banana, and banana can call it apple, right? Many times, because it's outside, it's a separate class. You can use it many times, has a name, right? So if you use the anonymous method, it only uses it once and only applies to banana. If you want to use for apple, hey, by the same token, you just copy this and then attach it to the apple. You can put right in here, right? Attached to apple, and then now it's all apple, only apple. Okay? I use only once. So if I do it now, if I run it, it should still work. So banana, apple. Okay, the message still works just like it is, except now you don't call this two classes anymore. I could comment all these out and it should still be completely fine. Okay, so if we do that, no more classes out here except I need to keep, yeah. And now they're calling this anonymous class inside the button banana and button apple, and they work just fine. Okay, so you can see that the code's getting a little bit shorter. They contain within each object, and you can handle all the information right in here inside this method here. So just study this anonymous method versus the class inner class method here, and you can see the difference. Similarly, it's just this part here. The public handle method is the same. So, any questions on this one here? So when you get home tonight or tomorrow this week here, just do some practice. Attach the set of action to a button or to any object or a flag. That's fine too. You can do that as well. A flag, click on a flag and do something. You make it move, rotate, right? So I could do down here. I could just say, btn banana dot set rotate, right? And then put 45 degrees in here. Okay. So when I click banana, the button's gonna put the message as well as it rotates it, right? Clicking it, if you can make it so that it rotates every number every time, and it rotates around the clock, right? And so on. So you can have all the actions can be taking place right inside this method here. And of course, you want to do another method. You can say, public. Not here, but have like a method out here. Public void set rotate me, and then you could now say you pass the rotate down here, and here you could put like an object called button B, right? And you put this message here B, and I'm going to pass, instead of running that here, you call this method rotate me, and you pass the btn banana button to it, right? Just passing objects to that method, and this method here rotates it. Let's call it like maybe 132 or something. Okay, so you click on it, it rotates it at that angle, and then you can have it so it's randomized every time, right? Instead of 32, you randomize this number. Okay, so you can have functions, and outside of this, just like your regular Java functions, and you can call all these methods inside here. Anywhere else, doesn't matter. So you can see how you can use the same things you learned in Java 1 apply to everything here. Okay. So now, I don't have 10 minutes, but I want to cover the last part. Is even shorter. It's called Lambda expression. Okay, this expression here is only available in Java 8. It's a new way, very short way to do it. You're gonna like this one, and I think you're gonna probably use this one most of the time, although you should know the other two methods as well. So this lambda expression is another shortcut that you can do, and now you just use something like this. Okay, the parameter type, if you have multiple of them, and use the arrow and followed by the expression. Expression will be like a bunch of statements. Okay, this is like a very basic syntax. If you look at the code, you'll see that it looks something like this. So this is the one we just saw, the anonymous, right? We saw that anonymous class. And then you can shorten this into just something like this. So instead of having event handler, action, event, and then here parenthetic function here, all that, it's all this can be taken out and replace it with just a list of parameters you want to pass to that expression, followed by the arrow, and then this curly braces, because you have multiple statements in there, and then you just do your stuff in here. Right? So inside here is the same as what goes in here. So all of these here, all of these here, all the way to the brackets here, are replaced with this. Okay? And Java understands it. This is one way to declare type, meaning if you have a lot of different objects, different parameter you want to pass to that, that method here. Or you could just basically do this. Okay? Just use the E, and then it points to that, the arrow, and then followed by the curly braces, and put your actions in here. So very easy. You can even take out the paren here. You don't need the paren here. Just use the E. It's fine. This is if you want to have like multiple parameters, but usually just the E is fine. It doesn't have to be E. It could be anything. Okay. And E here, and then just do your function stuff in here. So much shorter. Or you could just use the E and then followed by a function call, if that's what it is. Okay. If all it is just a single statement, then you don't need the curly braces either. Just like in the if and else clause, right? If you know A equals B, if that's true, only one statement, then you just put it here. Otherwise, you put into the curly braces. But it's always safe to put in the curly brace. Okay. So if you look at the code that we just did over here, look at this apple here. So all of these here, right, could be replaced just like this. Replace it with that, and remove one of these curly brace. I'm done. Much shorter, very easy now, right? So this is, this is called the lambda expression. This is the lambda expression here. Okay, when you see that, when Java sees that, it knows that is the same as this whole thing here. It is cheating, right? Which is the same as this whole thing here. So you can see how short it gets. Okay? So when I said use lambda expression, this is what I'm looking for. Okay, you could have, if you, for example, here on the banana, if you don't want to print all these out, you could just say, event here, and then just point to that function down there, and rotates to me, right? If that's all I want to do, I would just say rotate banana, and then close it there. Okay. So all it does is it just rotates the banana button. Okay, and maybe in here, then I could have the message display in there, right? I could put it in here now. So I put it in a separate function, but in my lambda expression, that's all it is. And if you, right now you can see that that still works, and vanilla is also still works just fine. Okay, so really short, really precise, and it makes code much simpler. Okay, and this is very common, and again, this only works for Java 8. So if you're using Java 7, this will not work. Okay, so only the 8 version, which I think you should have in your system already. And if you want to put statements in here, just put a pair of curly braces and do all your coding in here. Okay, E equal the dollar sign, the arrow key, and then pour your code in here. You have all this stuff. So I'm going to stop here, and I know I didn't have a chance to cover the rest, but read all the notes, and I know we're behind, so which is fine. I'll review again. Next we will go, we'll cover some more in chapter 5. I think if you read the book, I know the book's not that friendly, but do what you can and do as far as you can with those assignments. And then I will probably give you another extension for Unit 4, chapter 15, because of the time that we didn't get to do all these examples. See how far you go, and then if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. Okay?
You still have the code from before the break, and then get a chance to take a picture.
Yeah,
With
yeah,
the flags.
yeah. I actually, maybe I'll upload it so you can just download it. How's that?
Okay.
Yeah, is that easier? Yeah. I'll upload to Blackboard and just go and download it, and then we can copy it and use.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.